Hello, 4J. Look at where we are. We are at the Oregon Coast Aquarium. I'm so excited. We get to go in and see some amazing sea life today. Seahorses and sharks and stingrays and little anemones. Some magnificent things. I'm so glad you're here today. I can't wait to explore with you. Thanks for joining me. Stay tuned. We're gonna go pop inside right now. I'll see you soon. All right, so here we are with Mr. Jeff. He is our guide today, and he's gonna talk to us all about what we're gonna be seeing and learning about today. And you can see right here that we are at the turkey vulture. You might be like, wait, we're at the aquarium. Why are we seeing a bird? Mr. Jeff's gonna tell us all about that.
All right, so hello everyone, my name is Jeff, and we are with our turkey vultures. This is Olive, and this is her brother Ichabod behind. They're both actually from Wisconsin, and we've had them since 2009. So you might be wondering why we have turkey vultures. They are important here in the Oregon coast. You might see them, if you know what they eat, they're scavengers, so they eat dead things. So they often help us clean up the beaches and clean up roadkill and things like that. So they're part of nature's cleanup crew. So these guys like to eat marine mammals. I actually do bird surveys, or dead bird surveys, and I often find the birds because the vultures have found them first. So when I see a vulture, I go out and check out the bird, and we can measure it and see what it is. But they're really smart. They have kind of a bad reputation because they eat dead things, but they're really, really smart. I was a bird trainer at my last job, and I was really attached to one of the vultures there. We had a good bond. Olive likes staff, so she often comes up to see us. So a lot of staff will stop and talk to Olive because she's very sweet and curious. So as soon as the other guys left, she came down to say hi to us and you guys. So
That's so fun.
yeah,
Can you tell us why turkey vultures don't have feathers on their heads?
yeah, they have really cool kind of gross adaptations. The featherless heads are good because when they're eating, they'll often put their head right inside of a carcass. And if they were to bring their head out and they had feathers, they'd be covered in gunk and blood and things like that. So having the featherless heads allows them to kind of bake it up in the sun and help clean it up easily. Plus, I think it makes them look really nice.
Right.
But I happen to be bald.
They stand out,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I know they should be called the bald turkey vultures.
Yeah, right,
huh?
the bald.
The bald eagles aren't really bald.
And then if Olive's getting too much attention, Ichabod will come and chase her around. So she likes the attention the most, but then he's like any other, brother. If she's getting too much, he'll kind of push her out of the way and
Right.
steal the attention.
Okay, so you mentioned that you feed in the wild. They eat dead animals. So is that what you're giving them in here too?
Yeah, everything comes in frozen, so we know it's not. They could handle diseases. They can actually clean out diseases out of the environment. But we mainly feed them like chicks, or they'll eat some salmon. They eat fish, or some kind of like a rat or something sometimes. But it comes in frozen, and then we'll kind of cut it up in little pieces, and then we can feed it to them.
Great. Okay. All right. We're gonna pop over to our next sighting. Okay, so here we are in this very cool spot. You guys, we have a really good view of some cool creatures behind us. Mr. Jeff's gonna tell us all about it.
That's right. So we are in front of this is called our open sea exhibit, and you might notice there's a lot of schooling fish, and we have a lot of sharks in here too. So this is at the end of our tunnel. We have 3 tunnels. You can see the tunnel actually behind me with some guests in it there. And the sharks and the fish can go right over the tunnel, right underneath it. But this kind of represents like open sea. So these are fish you would see like further out off the coast a bit. And I want to say we have about 70 sharks in here and 20 some rays. They're all bat rays. When you go swimming at the beach and you go out into the ocean, you'll never be in the water with 70 sharks in one spot. These are just, we put more in there because we have plenty of room, and it's just cool to have some more sharks. So I always like to point that out. We do have divers that go on every day to help clean up in there. So think about that. If you ever want to dive with sharks, you can volunteer here when you're old enough, and you can get in there and do some cleaning and hang out with the sharks, which is pretty cool.
What? Really?
Mhm.
Oh, that's fun. I did not know that.
Yeah, here we have 4 different species of sharks. So the ones that are spotted, hopefully somebody will come by us, are leopard sharks. So we have, I think, 20 or so leopard sharks. Ooh, here comes a big ray. The bat rays, this is one of our bigger ones. They can be really small, but we have some that can get about 6 feet across. So you get to be pretty big.
They look so graceful in
They're
the
so
water.
pretty how they fly.
What's this big one right
That's the broad-nosed 7-gill, are the biggest sharks that we have in there.
Okay, so a lot of times we think of sharks, we kind of think they're scary and stuff, but tell us about how many sharks we really have to be careful of.
You know, I think it's like 80% of sharks are smaller than 5 feet. Most people, when they think of sharks, they think of great whites and some of the big, kind of more aggressive ones. There's probably only a handful of species that really ever interact with people. But even those, it's very unlikely. You're more likely to get injured or hurt by a falling coconut than you are by a shark. So I've been diving with sharks. They're really cool to be in the water with. And they really usually don't want anything to do with people.
Right, yeah. Okay, so any of the sharks in here, are they all pretty friendly sharks?
Yeah, so we have divers, like I said, in here every day. We've had some of these sharks in here since we opened in the 90s. This one is a tiny little dogfish. They're really cute. They're actually really curious. They'll actually come up and, if you're up above the exhibit, they come and kind of look at you. They're just really cute, I think.
Oh,
but the ones we specifically pick certain species that do well in an aquarium like this. So all of these species, you'll see at other aquariums too. They're generally pretty mellow, and they do well in this kind of setting. Something like a great white. Some aquariums have had great whites, but they're a little too big and a little too aggressive to have in their exhibits.
Okay, and all these fish that are swarming around here, these sharks don't eat them?
Yeah, no, not usually. So sharks have this reputation of being these eating machines. It's really not the case. Here comes the big one. Sharks only eat when they're hungry. So a great white, for example, if it eats a seal, a big meal, it may only eat 1 time per month. So we offer our sharks food 3 times a week. And we feed it basically off of like a big fork. They can kind of swim up and take it. So they would rather get their food that way than have to chase around and try to catch a healthy fish.
So they're kind of lazy.
They're lazy.
Okay.
And in fact, in the ocean, they usually will eat weaker injured fish because they're easier to catch. So as long as the fish, something will swim around, kind of exciting. As long as if there's an injured fish, then the shark's instincts might kick in and they might take it out then. But for the most part, it would take them more energy trying to catch an anchovy than they would get from actually eating it.
Interesting.
So they're really efficient. They have a low metabolism. They don't have to eat very often.
Oh, look at those two, you guys. That's so fun. Tell us about the ray. So you said this is a bat ray, and that stinger on the end. What happens if we run into that?
So these are be unlikely to, because there you can see the little barb at the base of the tail, right where it starts. Most stingrays you have to worry about are the ones that bury themselves in the sand.
Yes.
So if they camouflage, so if you step on them, then it's just out of self-defense, their barb would come up and stick.
Okay.
The ones in here would be really unlikely for you to actually get stung by one.
Okay.
Most places, if you go to one they have in like a touch pool, they'll actually clip the barb. It's kind of like clipping your fingernails. They grow back. So they'll clip them so there's no risk of it.
Okay.
They're real docile and usually really mellow.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you guys, they gave us some good views in here. This was cool. I bet we're going to get to walk through those tunnels over there too. Okay, let's go finish our exploration. Okay, so we're going to go into this tunnel. I'm going to try to avoid getting some people in my shot. So we'll kind of give you the essence of it. So this is the inside of where we just were. Let's see. There's Mr. Jeff.
You can see the room.
And there's the window that we were just in. So now we're in this very cool tunnel that we get to walk through. We kind of saw that in our... I'll give you the perspective from behind us. There's nobody else. Isn't that cool? The other side. Okay. Move on. That's pretty cool though. Okay, so this is inside the tunnel of Halibut Flats. So we're seeing a little bit different view. These are sturgeons, guys. Look at, you can see them floating over us.
They're baby. They can actually suck like a diver's mask off their feet.
Oh, look at that. And what is this red fish that's right there?
Most of the other ones are rockfish. That's a species of rockfish.
Okay.
And they're pretty low energy. They like to just sit in one spot.
Yeah.
They'll pick up a spot in the rock and just hang out there.
Look at how colorful they are, you guys.
There's over 100 species, and they can live. Some of them live to be 200 years old.
What?
So they're really long lived.
No
And the sturgeon too. Sturgeon look at the
Whoa. That's amazing. Look at this guy's mouth. He's just sitting there hanging out, smiling at us.
Here too, there's a lot of, this would be like a sandy bottom habitat, so you'd have a lot of flatfish or bottom feeders. So you have halibut and flounder and some other fish that like to eat from the bottom.
Look at these. See that fish stuck to the rock right there?
Yeah, that one is called a China rockfish. That one is kind of notoriously, I might say, adapted to a low energy lifestyle instead of lazy. They'll pick a spot and live about 30 meters around the same rock they were born in their whole lives.
Whoa, that's crazy. Okay, this guy's mouth is just hilarious. He's just... Is he doing something with his mouth?
I don't know.
There? Okay, we're not sure. Yeah, oh, here's a bunch more. Oh, there he is. Look. Oh my goodness. There's another. Okay, look at the sturgeon. What are those little hairy things going on?
They're called barbels. Catfish have them too, so it helps for bottom feeders. It helps them feel around for food on the seafloor.
Oh, okay.
Their sharks have them too.
Hey friends, look at this. These guys are just like right here, posing for us. I know, like, are they planning? That's so cool. Okay. This one right here?
The one laying on there.
Uh-huh.
We have a clean pattern here.
So they're not moping or anything, that's just their normal...
That's just how they
good.
like to hang out.
Okay. Let's see what else we can see. There's the upper perspective. Oh, look at that. It's like a shipwreck.
Yeah, it's like a shipwreck. They give them a little bit of structure that they can hang out in there.
Whoa. Just like the ocean. Okay, let's check out next step.
Come over. He likes a certain ledge, I think.
So this guy right here is a big key.
I think it's called a big skate. And skates are related to rays. And rays are related to sharks, and skates are kind of in between rays and sharks. And skates actually lay eggs.
It's not that one, you guys. That's the sturgeon. It just went behind that rock.
Hopefully they'll come back. Skates lay eggs, so they call them mermaids' purses. You can find them on the beaches. And the big skate eggs get to be like 11 inches long. You can have up to 7 babies in one egg. So you might find them, they're brown. You might find them on the beach sometimes. Oh, there it is.
Oh, here it is, guys.
A lot of them have a clear nose, kind of like that. There's actually one called a clear nose skate.
Guys, that's pretty cool looking fish. We get to kind of see its outline really cool.
So it's like kind of looks like a ray in the front with a sharp tail.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool. Alright, let's check out Orford.
We have some little fields. So Orford, we have a lot of rockfish, and we have, I think, like 6 or 7 bullfish.
Oh my goodness.
That was one of our young ones we raised here, and we put them on the big exhibit finally.
So you raised this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was really small, and they got them only like probably 10 inches long.
Okay.
There's one.
Look at that. Now that looks like cauliflower.
It does, right?
Yes.
That's an anemone. That's a plumose anemone. They
It's
get
an
to be big and white.
anemone.
Yep. So it does look like cauliflower.
Yes. Anemones are so amazing.
There's a lot of different varieties too.
Yeah.
I think there's you can't really see her too well. There's a female wolffield that lives in a hole. You can kind of see her gray face. You can see it. She sticks out a little bit more, but she's
Right there in that hole, you guys. You can't really see very well. But there's...
So this is more like a kelp forest, rocky, close to shore habitat. So and there's a lot of rockfish, and this kelp is not real, but this would be where you'd find kelp forests. It's actually named after a place further south called near Port Orford.
Yes.
There's actually a marine reserve down there called Redfish Rocks. So we actually designed this exhibit to look like that.
Wow, this is amazing. It's so beautiful. Look at all the happy fish in here. Let's check this out over here. There's more kelp. Happy fish. Look at this guy just hanging out here for us. Yeah. he's just resting his belly on them.
Yeah, they do. They'll lay on, like this one, you see how they lay just kind of
Yes.
up against the rocks. People often call us, they think that they're not feeling well. They're like, oh, it's just a rockfish, this is how they like to be.
Oh. That is a balled up starfish. That little guy too.
There's a bigger one.
There's another eel over there. See it? Oh, freaking up. We're gonna learn about these cool tunnels we're just walking through.
Yeah, so we're out in our passages of the deep. There's a whole exhibit, but there are 3 different tunnels. And the idea behind the exhibit is basically imagine yourself walking from the shore all the way out into the open ocean. So the first exhibit is called Orford Reef. We walk through there, we'll check it out. This one has rocky pillars and a kelp forest, and is actually named for a marine reserve down near Port Orford. So that's kind of the first stop. It'd be right off the coast. If you continue out, you'll get into Halibut Flats, which is sandy bottom. So if you went past the rocky columns, you'd be on the sandy bottom habitat with a shipwreck. And then beyond that, you get out to the open ocean, which was the exhibit with all the sharks and the schooling fish in there. So it's kind of the idea when we're going to take a walk through there.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So Orford Reef is where you start.
Yes, we have harbor seals and California sea lions.
Okay. Oh, there's
These are the sea
one.
lions.
How can you tell the difference between a sea lion and a seal?
Good question. So sea lions are brown. Seals are usually spotted, so they could be light with dark spots or dark with light spots. And the sea lions swim a lot faster. There's one of them. They can swim, I think, 20 miles per hour, and the seals go about 12. But mainly look for the spots and for the brown fur is the best way to tell.
Okay.
The ones, if you go down to the bayfront in Newport, right now there's a bunch of male sea lions, California sea lions, and they lay along the docks and they're really noisy. They bark. So they vocalize, the males, and get really loud. The females can vocalize too, but the harbor seals just make kind of like a raspberry sound.
Right.
They're pretty quiet.
Okay.
But they both live right off of Newport. I see them surfing. I'll be out with both of them. And then they swim differently, so the sea lions use their front flippers to pull, and then the harbor seals kind of use their back flippers to propel themselves.
Okay.
So they're a little bit slower.
California sea lion.
And we have 2 females. The males get a lot bigger than the females, so the males can get to be 1,000 pounds. And the females are usually like 250.
Okay.
So the ones, if you go to Newport, they're all big males.
Right. All right.
So they like to swim on their backs and stuff too.
Oh, he's on his back. Okay, so what are we seeing right there?
That's a harbor seal. Let's see if I can tell who that is. Might be Miller. There's 2 males and then the rest are females. I have trouble telling some of them apart. That was a sea lion.
Okay.
So the 2 female sea lions are Catalina and Rosa. They're a little bit smaller, but they're really high energy. And then the harbor seals are a little lower energy, and they swim with their kind of use their back flippers to move. And we see the sea lions actually pull with their front flippers, so they swim faster.
Right.
All of these animals are non-releasable, so they needed a home. So some of them might have had an eye injury, or they may have been born at another facility and couldn't be released. Our 2 sea lions were actually both, when they were young, when they were pups, they were from California, they weren't finding enough food. So they rehabbed them, and then they weren't able to be released, so then we gave them a home. But they get along really well. These 2 hang out together pretty much all the time. One of them, Catalina, is missing her left eye.
Oh.
But she's fine. They move around well without it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to slow her down. Look at that little guy.
And they're all a lot of them are older. So we actually have a 45-year-old harbor seal named Skinny. And they only live usually to be 25 or 30. So she's actually the 2nd oldest harbor seal in North America.
Oh my goodness.
And I'll point her out if I see her. She's really light, and she is sort of skinny. But she's super healthy. They just did a checkup on her last week, and she's totally healthy.
Oh, they're saying hi.
Yeah, they're pretty interactive. They like to come check out the windows, too.
Uh-huh.
They might be Boots. Boots is my favorite.
We all just get along.
Yeah, they get along fine. They do a lot of training with them, so there's pools in the back where they'll actually separate the seals and sea lions and do different training and feedings and things like that, too.
Okay. They just kind of look like they're doing laps.
Yeah, getting their exercise.
Yeah. Does a seal or a sea lion, they sleep, but no, these guys are mammals, right? They gotta have air, so do they come out of the water?
Yeah, they can haul out. Usually the ones here will rest out of the water.
Uh-huh.
Or the ones, if you see the ones down in Newport on the bayfront, their males will be up on the docks, so kind of trying to sleep.
Okay. Very fun.
But you'd go back and you could get a kiss. It was pretty awesome.
Different perspective, really below the water.
And we give them toys, like we call it enrichment. So if you see the floating ball, we'll actually put food in there usually just to give them something to interact with. So they don't have to hunt on their own.
Right.
So we kind of make it a little more challenging for them, use their kind of natural behaviors. So if you ever come and see something floating around, it's supposed to be in there. It's for the animals to kind of play with.
We like to play just like you guys. Sweet. All right. Thanks, sea lions. Guys, look at what we've got here. It's an otter.
It is cute. It's tiny.
Look at that.
That looks huge.
It is actually tiny.
Oh my goodness.
I thought it'd be a lot smaller.
Yeah,
big.
the largest of the weasels. Our biggest one's about 70 pounds.
I imagined it like this big, like a cat.
Yeah, the babies are kind of small. Yeah, I worked at another place that had river otters, and they're about 25 pounds. I came here I did not expect them to be as big as
We were watching this one eat right there.
There we go.
There's the baby.
They are big. These are sea otters.
Yep, these are three male sea otters.
Yeah.
You see those two on the map?
That one, that is so small.
This is going to be the highlight of my field trip right there.
That is a good video.
They get fed 4 times a day. These are.
I did not think they were going to be this big.
They have a really fast metabolism.
Yeah.
And they have the thickest fur of any mammal. That's how they stay warm. So they eat a lot and then they have thick fur. But they don't have any blubber like the sea lions.
Okay.
So they have to eat 25% of their body weight every day to kind of keep up with their metabolism.
Wow.
Yeah.
Their names are Nuka, Schuster, and Oswald.
They were small.
And these were all, 2 of them are from California. One was an orphan pup, and one of them got bit by a shark. So he recovered from a shark bite. And then Nuka is from Alaska. He's bigger and has a browner face.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
I didn't think they were that big. It's like blowing my mind.
Oh, look
And
at that
they play a lot. They wrestle a lot.
Oh my goodness. Look at them. Are they getting along?
They have really thick fur, so they wrestle pretty hard.
Oh, guys, like, got his mouth on the other one.
I have 2 brothers. I was like, I remember that those days.
Yeah, they're wrestling.
Right?
There's like a window up here, too.
Okay, let's check out the other. All right, so we're in a little different perspective. Tell us a
He's
little
got a
bit
toy,
about.
too.
Oh, look, he's playing.
That's enrichment, we call that.
Uh-huh.
So Nuka, the 2 lighter with the light, this is Oswald.
Okay.
So the 2 lighter ones are from California with the lighter faces. That's Oswald. And then Nuka and Schuster are wrestling. Nuka's got the darker head, and then Schuster's usually the dominant one. He's kind of on top now.
Okay. Do they ever hurt each other, or they don't go there?
No, they don't. I think maybe if they get a flipper or something, it could bug them. So we have spaces in the back. Sometimes we'll separate them if they're getting a little too ornery.
Yes.
But it is natural for them.
Yes. Oh, they're awesome. Look at this show you guys are getting. Mr. Jeff was just saying that a lot of times they're not playful. You guys got to see a lot of action. Look at that. Oh.
And he's got food, so
He's eating food off his belly.
they actually have loose skin underneath their arm, like a flap, or they can keep food for later. It's like a pocket.
Oh, no kidding. They store it.
I don't know, Nuka's the biggest one. He should be the most dominant, but he's the sweetest one.
He's sweet. I don't want to hurt you. You're getting a lot of play in. I love it. What a great show. Okay, we are in an aviary. You might be going, what is an aviary? But look at, do you have a hint? Mr. Jeff is going to tell us all about the aviary.
Yeah, so we are in our seabird aviary. So most of these birds, people think they look like penguins, and it's true. We don't have any penguins in the northern hemisphere. We have auks or alcids. So we have puffins, common murres, pigeon guillemots, and then a rhinoceros auklet. These are all little seabirds that dive similar to a penguin. They fly underwater with their wings. And usually this time of year they're offshore. So they live out in the ocean in the winter and the colder months, and then they come close to shore in the summer to breed. So a lot of them are changing. When you saw that graphic, they have winter plumage and then breeding plumage. So a lot of our birds are actually changing right now into their fancy feathers because they would be looking to mate pretty soon. So our pigeon guillemots, the dark ones with the kind of orange feet, that's their breeding plumage. But some of the puffins are not quite into their full breeding plumage yet.
They have to look good, right?
Yeah, they have to look good.
Yes, to attract a mate.
It's hard to tell males and females apart because usually these birds will mate for life. So they both get to look nice.
Oh.
Instead of like a songbird where the male's real showy and colorful and the female's not so much.
Yes.
And the males also help with chick rearing. So they'll sit on the nest and take turns.
Right.
And the murres, on the other side, we'll see common murres. The males actually are the ones that raise the babies. Once they go out into the ocean, they hang out with the males for a while, learn how to be a murre, and then they're on their own.
Wow. This guy with his head going backwards, he just resting?
Yeah, yep, they just rest. They kind of tuck their head in the feathers.
Yeah.
Sometimes they preen a lot too, so you imagine them out in really cold water. There's cold water in here too. To stay warm, they put air into their feathers. So they're constantly preening, kind of fluffing up their feathers, and then they use their beaks to go to the back of their tail. That one might be getting oil out of his oil gland. And then they rub oil on all of their feathers, and they can kind of zip their feathers together like a raincoat.
Oh, look at him just showing off for us, he or she.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Go ahead.
So these are common murres. These are the murres, the birds that you most commonly see here in Newport. So if you ever go to Aquarium Head Lighthouse, you guys can go on. I'll stay out of your way. In the summertime, they nest right on the rocks. So you'll see tens of thousands of these, and they lay their eggs just right on rocks, just like that. They're communal nesters, so it's kind of like a strength in number kind of strategy.
Right. Okay.
There was some swimming. You can swim, they swim kind of like a penguin. They wings to fly.
There's one down there. Look at that. You get to see it underwater. That's so cool.
The murres can swim 500 feet. Look at the feet. They go down 500 feet.
They dive 500 feet?
Yeah. They've been recorded on it. So here are the tufted puffins. Again, not in the breeding plumage, but they get like a yellow tuft up on each side of its head. So they're starting to change and molt into their breeding plumage, but still kind of drab still.
I think it's called an
There's more of them over there.
And the birds can go kind of wherever they want to. In here there's a net, obviously, so they can't fly away, but they can go to either side, do whatever pool they want to be in.
No, can you guys see that net there? There you go. Here's the perspective. So they can fly within the net.
So the two up on the top here with the really long orange bills, those are called black oyster catchers. So those two are shorebirds. The rest of these are diving seabirds. So those two you see along the rocks along the coast, and they like to pry open mussels, and these are big bills to do that and stuff like. These are called Japanese spider crabs. They're pretty small still. They can be 13 feet across with their legs.
Small? That thing is huge.
But you'll notice, I don't know if you can see, some of these, when they molt, sometimes they have issues with their legs. So if they get stressed or if they're having trouble molting, they can actually drop a leg. We had one that dropped she only had 3 legs left out of 10.
What?
So they actually went in and put a little yoga block on her back to help her float. And then the other one's name is Forrest, I think. He had his legs came out kind of rounded, so they put a PVC splint on his to make him more comfortable too. So Yeah, two of the crabs in here are like, they've
So
had
will
done a lot
that
of work
grow
to make
back?
them. Yeah, the next time they molt, then all their legs will come back out.
Oh my goodness.
So, but it takes, these might only molt once a year, once every 2 years.
Oh, that's going to be a long time.
Yeah, like young crabs will molt quick a lot, but yeah, so it's kind of interesting. The two of the crabs we have in here are kind of being helped out
Little lost
by the creativity of our aquarists. They work really hard to
Right?
keep them happy.
That's amazing.
They actually changed out all the rocks recently too. Maybe
Oh,
this one's good. Oh yeah, you can see he's got PVC kind of splints.
Oh, he does.
On this side.
look at that black right there, you guys.
Oh, and the black too. That's kind of neat. They're doing it's like a prosthetic. So it comes in like a sheet, a plastic sheet, and they warm it up, and then they shape it to his leg, and that helps him walk around better too.
Woo.
It's pretty common for these to have issues on their mold.
So
Yeah,
even in the
yeah.
wild, like what would they do in the
In the
wild?
wild, they would just deal with it.
Deal with it.
But ours here, since we can help
They
them,
can
help
be
them.
spoiled. Way to be, guys. Okay, you guys, we're in the coastal water stories.
Oh, this
So
is
we
cool.
see- Look at this.
It's a barnacle. So barnacles, or when you go tide pooling, they look like little rocks along the tide pools. Usually they're closed up because
And they're white on the outside,
Yeah,
right? We
so
don't really get to see them.
what he's doing is this one's eating. I don't know if it's he or she. I'm gonna say it's eating, and those are actually its legs. So they're related to lobsters or crustaceans. When they're little, they swim around until they find a good spot, and then they glue their head to something, and then they grow the shell around them. And then when they're hungry, they put out all their legs, looks like an eyelash, and they grab little food that's going around, and that's how they eat.
Love it.
I love showing the barnacles because a lot of times people don't know that when you're at the tide pooling that they're actually alive.
on them,
Yeah, they step
right?
on them,
Yes.
but they're actually alive and just waiting for the water to come back in.
What's that thing in the back?
The
Yeah, the
spiky looking thing?
no, it's not spiky. It's like bubbly.
Oh, that's actually a anemone when they close up, so they can pull all of their
yes.
filly parts in to protect themselves.
Right.
And then there's a cucumber, sea cucumber in the far back, the orange spiky thing. They're actually soft spikes, but they're echinoderms. They're related to sea stars and sea urchins.
There's another little barnacle right there.
I love the barnacles. They're so cool.
I love the little tiny sea anemones.
Yeah, these are the coolest exhibits, the close-ups.
Yeah, look at how
There's so much packed in.
Wow. We think that only the tropical oceans get all this color, but look at all this color. It's awesome.
James!
Talk about that. Okay, check this out and look at that.
So we have, I think, only 2 types of jellies right now. We actually breed moon jellies and then sea nettles. So these are sea nettles, and they don't look like they have much to interact with, which is okay for jellies. They don't have a brain, and normally they'd just be out in the open ocean, and they just kind of pulse and go with the flow along the current, and then they use their tentacles on the outside to grab any kind of food. So they're filter feeders. So if they run into something they want to eat, they'll sting it, and then they just bring it into their bell, and then they digest it.
So and all these little tendrils here, what you can get stung with.
Yeah, so the red ones on the outside, the skinny ones, are the ones that can sting you. The frilly ones in the middle are their oral arms, and those are for just capturing food and bringing it in. So the middle ones can't sting you, but the other ones do.
So I'm kind of fascinated. You said it doesn't have a brain, so it's just working on.
They don't know a whole lot about them, but they have nerves that run from the bell all the way down. So it's sort of just instinctually, it's like a really, really simple nerve system, and it's not even a nervous system.
Yeah.
I think they're learning more and more. I think they're not really, I don't think they're like sentient.
Uh-huh.
Alright, so these are moon jellies. It's the other species of jellies we have. We actually breed moon jellies. So they have a kind of an interesting life cycle. But we breed them in the back, and then when they're adults, here they can live to be about 10 years. In the ocean, they usually live to be about a year.
In here they get to live 10 years?
Yeah, they live longer just because they get fed all the time, and there's no predators, and everything's really consistent.
It's a life.
Yeah, exactly. They were pretty good.
Flaminarians. They're cool.
So moon jellies have a really mild sting, unlike the sea nettles, which hurt a little bit more. But around the bell on the outside is really short stinging tentacles that kind of look like hairs. So they can sting like a little plankton. We feed ours brine shrimp. Remember sea monkeys, it's the same thing. They can sting that and bring it in to eat, but for people, it doesn't affect us at all. So we actually do a jelly touch program where we still only touch the bell on the top. So like in Finding Nemo when they bounce on the top, that's the safest spot. So we don't touch the tentacles. This is our California kelp forest exhibit. So it has giant kelp, which is different. We have bull kelp in Oregon, so this is not the kelp you'd see, but there's an orange fish in here that's really cool. It's called a Garibaldi. I think it's hiding from us right now. But I just researched a little bit and found out it's named after an Italian general from the 1800s who was famous for wearing bright red shirts. So whoever found it was like, oh, that's bright like Garibaldi, and that's how it got its name.
That's so funny. What kind of eel is that?
It's I think it's a California moray. It's a moray eel. I think it's a California moray.
Oh, there's the Garibaldi.
There's a Garibaldi, and they're super territorial. So usually they'll find a spot in the reef that they like in the wild, and then the males protect that for their whole lives.
Their whole life?
Yep.
Wow. And would this be a lobster?
Spiny lobster, yeah. So spiny lobsters are down in California too.
Is this a lobster that we would eat?
Yeah, people like, usually ones people eat are, they think of like Maine lobster or different.
Yeah.
So they have the claws, people eat the claws. Spiny lobsters don't have any claws, so they would eat the tail of the lobster.
Uh-huh.
But I used to live in Florida and people loved eating the lobster tail.
Yeah. We're not going to eat those lobsters, you guys.
Yeah, no, they're safe.
No, about it.
All right, so this is one of our new exhibits called the Indo-Pacific Coral Reef exhibit. So most of our animals you see are native to the Oregon coast, but this is an exception. So these are tropical fish you'd find in the tropical Pacific, so South Pacific. So we have dory type fish. We don't have any clownfish in here, but the water was warm enough, or would be warm enough, that you'd find a lot of corals in a coral reef. These are all species that live on a coral reef.
So beautiful.
Yeah, a lot more color. The reef in here is, we manufactured it, so coral's kind of tough to keep alive.
Oh, so this isn't live coral?
It's not live coral.
Okay, I was going to say, 'cause this is really
It'd be really hard. And,
Yeah.
and the divers, we have divers that go in here that we have to worry about kicking it.
Yeah,
Saving it.
there's not a lot of room for them. Okay. Well, you did a good job manufacturing
Yeah,
it.
and it looks pretty real.
It does, yeah. Look at how happy those fish are. So beautiful. You guys, look at!
Found Nemo.
We've got a little Nemo! Oh,
It's really cute.
just
It's tiny.
showing off for us. That's so awesome. Oh, that's so perfect. Where
Next to
you?
another
And
exhibit.
here's Dory. Dory. Oh, there he is. Look at that. What a great show.
There's kind of some fun animals in here. We have the sunflower stars, they get really big, and they're really fast for a sea star. They're actually kind of like the wolves of the tide pool because they're a lot faster than the prey they're trying to get usually. And we also have it's like a squirrel fish, and then a fish that looks like an eel. Actually, both wolf eels also are fish. So they're not true eels because they have this fin. True eels don't have that. But eels are also fish as well. But these are two more wolf eels that we raised from when they were really small. And then a black crickleback. It's kind of hard to see, but they're kind of long like an eel too. They just kind of put their body into a crevice like that and hang out.
These are cool. So those, what did you call them, sunflower?
Yeah, sunflower stars.
Wow, they look like they have, is that hair on them?
Yeah, they can, most stars can do that. They can either be like real hard or they can they can actually pull water into their arms to help them kind of grip. So they can actually kind of push out. I think these are always a little bit kind of slimy and hairy looking too, but I'm not sure exactly the purpose of it. They have tons of tube feet underneath. Sometimes they're on the window, you see all their tube feet, and that's
Kind
how
of
they
like
move.
the look of an octopus.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Another fish. Alright. Look at this. Below the tide. Look at how beautiful it is in here. It's like we've got all kinds of different flowers. These are all different sea anemones. This is what we see in our oceans here.
Yeah, the most common one is the giant green.
Yes.
Those ones you usually see at tide pools.
I have never seen one like looks like
Ochre
colorful.
stars.
Look at, there's the back sign of the starfish.
Yeah, they have all these little tube feet. You see them kind of moving. That's what they use to move around. And they also use it if they catch food. They'll actually pass food up to their mouth in the middle with the tube feet.
There is too much going on.
Amazing. This is beautiful.
Like,
Look at, they just look like they're flowers
love how
growing
starfish
in
is
the
layered.
water.
Just on top
Okay,
of each
so with
other.
an anemone, when they get something in the center, that's when they close up like that other one we
yeah.
were looking at.
Yeah, so when we used to have some, when you feed them, you just give them food, like a piece of seafood or a little gel or something. And then they close up pretty fast and they bring the food into their mouth. And then they close up and digest it, and then it comes back out the same hole.
Okay.
One way in and one way out.
Wow. This was cool. And then there's just these little fish hanging out amongst them.
That's a little China rockfish.
All right, look at this little guy.
So there's an abalone. It's a snail with just the shell on the other side. It's kind of cool. You can kind of see his foot on this side. This is his mouth. So they kind of they'll scrape algae and things off of rocks is what they like to do. But they're really interactive. We don't have our touch pull open, but when you do, these are my favorite. So you see these little, looks like hairs on the side. If you touch that with your finger, they must think it's food or something, because then the head will kind of turn over to you, and sometimes they'll actually kind of suck on your finger. So I love the abalone. They're really charismatic for like a snail.
Okay, here's the back other side of that. So you get to see the part you probably never get to see. Oh, is this the abalone as well?
Yeah. So these are the
Oh,
red
got it.
abalones too.
Yeah, this is the other side that we get.
And on the inside, I'm going to have a shell to show you. They have mother of pearl. So it's super iridescent, pretty on the inside.
Oh, and what do we got right here?
That's a prawn, spot prawn, like a big shrimp.
Uh-huh.
These are a nice exhibit.
Look at these beautiful bat stars. So colorful. Oh, and they get a little fishy in there with them.
What is that?
Down here.
Oh, it's a queenfish. So you can kind of see, they're flat and they stick, they kind of suction up against the window.
Oh, okay, so there's the fish, and
It doesn't look like a fish.
you can't really see it very well. That's cool. And then we've got some other little creatures over here.
The cutest ones are over here. Those staff favorite. This is called spiny lump suckers. Spiny lump sucker is the name. They also have the kind of suction where they stick against the wall. And they're like little, they don't get very big, but they're cute and sassy, and staff love these guys.
They are. Look at their little, those are fins?
Yeah, their little fins are real slow moving and inefficient swimmers, but they're just the cutest.
But their fins look like they're working hard.
Yeah, it's like a hummingbird almost.
And their eyes are changing color.
Yeah, they're kind of like iridescent green eyes.
Yeah. All right.
So we have some pipefish and their food. So these little things floating around are brine shrimp or sea monkeys, if you ever had sea monkeys. Pipefish blend in really well, kind of like trumpet fish with the grass. There's probably more in here than we can even see. Yeah, there's some in there. There's actually one, I think. Is that one? Sometimes you can't even tell if it's a pipefish or not. But they're related to seahorses. So we have some fish that camouflage really well, and these are, you can find a lot of sculpin as a type of fish in the tide pools. So this one's a different kind. It's a smooth head sculpin. It's kind of got that orange on it. But they camouflage kind of like the stonefish. This is a sand dab. It's kind of similar to a flounder, but it's a camouflage fish. And you can see his little eyes and half of the body sticking out. But they can get changed to light to dark whenever they swim over a different kind of substrate. This is Banner, our green moray eel. I think he's like 6 feet long. He's pretty big. He's named after the Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner, so his name is Banner. The staff, we love him. He's been here for a while, like 3 different exhibits, changing exhibits. We've had him for quite a while.
Great. Did he swim around in here very
He
much?
moves around, yeah. He'll actually move the pipe around if he wants to move it, but yeah, he'll come all the way out and swim around a bit. They give him lots of enrichment. Sometimes they put a mirror in front of him so he can look at himself and do all kinds of fun stuff with him.
That's great. Look at these little guys. They're seahorses.
Yeah, they're actually fish. They don't look like fish.
And is that little fin on the back, is that what's motoring them
Yep,
around?
the only way they can really move, they kind of
Oh my
like
gosh,
move their
they're
tails, but it's mainly their little fins that motor them. So they grab on a lot because if it's, you know, a lot of current, then they would get blown around.
So
At least you'll live in grass. And
they live in grass, right? Because the open ocean would just take them for a ride.
And they camouflage very well usually in the habitat they're living in. But these will probably be in a brown grass.
Uh-huh. Oh my goodness. Here's the seahorses again. Look at that fin. Oh my goodness, they're so special. These guys are all in a knot. Are they plain or?
I don't know. They're probably trying to grab onto something and it just happens to be another
Another seahorse. So we just had a great time at the aquarium. We get to read aloud with the sharks, stingrays, and fish behind us. We get to read a book by Eric Carle. He's an illustrator. He does very cool artwork. This is called Mr. Seahorse. Remember the seahorse we met today? So we get to read more about them today in this book and get an idea for how seahorses take care of their young. And we get to read with the sharks and the stingrays and fish behind us. It's so cool. All right, so let's dig into Mr. Seahorse. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mr. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. It's time for me to lay my eggs, she said. Can I help? Said Mr. Seahorse. Oh, yes, thank you, said Mrs. Seahorse. And she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. I'll take good care of our eggs, said Mr. Seahorse. I promise. You guys, this is different in nature. This doesn't happen all the time. Usually it's the female who's doing all the child rearing, but Mr. Seahorse took over here. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed by a group of trumpet fish. Did you see this cool page? Can't really see it. And then, ta-da! That makes this book kind of fun. A group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. And we didn't see trumpet fish today, but we saw pipefish, which are kind of in the same shape. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Stickleback? Said Mr. Seahorse. Delighted, replied Mr. Stickleback. I just built a nest, and right away, Mr. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. Keep up the good work, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. Look at that, onto his back. So we're meeting some very cool animals where the males are taking care of the eggs. He just rides around with all those eggs on his back. That's crazy. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed by, oh my gosh, look at those guys behind me. A lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. Look at how that lionfish looks. You guys, these things are very cool in nature. They're also very poisonous. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met, of course, another fish. How are you, Mr. Tilapia? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. No way! I know, said Mr. Seahorse. Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs. Now you're taking good care of them until they hatch. Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. You must be very happy, said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. Imagine your mama taking care of you in her mouth. That's so unique. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, oh my goodness, look at what's swimming by. That's cool. He passed by several leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. Look at those leaf fish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Curtis? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Pretty fine, replied Mr. Curtis. Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs and I have stuck them on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. You're doing a good job, said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. That's just unique. Again, you know, all these different ways of caring for the eggs. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed by a stonefish hidden behind a rock. Okay, he blends in super well. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Look it." "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs. Oh, you guys look. Sorry, distracted. Okay. Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. "You should feel proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Tip-top," replied Mr. Bullhead. Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs hatched. "Now I'm babysitting." "You're doing a fine job," said Mr. Seahorse, and he swam on his way. He's got a lot of work to do. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted this way and that. At last, the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. "Oh no," said Mr. Seahorse, "I do love you, but now you're ready to be on your own." Oh my goodness, they're so little and off on the go. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This has been such a great exploration. I hope you enjoyed it. The Oregon Coast Aquarium is outside of Newport, and you too can come here and visit because they're open now. So I hope you get the opportunity to, but if not, you got a great exploration today. It was great to see you, and I will see you next week when we go and visit and learn with Miss Carrie Newell, a marine biologist who's going to tell us all about the whale migration and seals around the area. And we get to see some tide pools too. All right, have a great evening, and I will see you next week.